Welcome to Inspired Living with Keri Murphy, the podcast, where as your host each and every week, I am going to inspire you and empower you to share your message and step into that big vision you see for yourself. I'll be bringing you celebrity interviews, influencer insights, and my personal tips from decades as an on-camera talent, TV host, media expert, and entrepreneur, so you can build a brilliant seven-figure brand. Because when you're inspired, you inspire others. So let's go. Hey, welcome back to the show. Super excited to have you with me today because usually I'm talking about business growth and what people have done to grow their 7- and 8-figure businesses. And even though my guest today, Michelle Bosch, is certainly one of those women who owns one of those businesses, how she does it is probably unconventional to maybe what you've thought of in the past. Michelle comes to us from Honduras as an immigrant. She came to the U.S. with nothing but 2 suitcases and has truly fulfilled and is living what we call the American dream. She is the CFO and co-founder of Orbit Investments that manages over $40 million in real estate assets and has an incredible learning platform where she teaches people how to invest in land through her Land Profit Generator program. Now, most women don't think about investing, never mind investing in land. And that is why I was so excited to bring Michelle onto the podcast, because she is a leader in her space, a space where we need more women being at the top. We need more women thinking about investing and creating long-term ROI in their investments. We talk about the difference between an income statement, right, and a balance sheet, and how we as women need to start thinking about how we can create generational wealth. And wealth that doesn't require us to keep trading time for dollars. So I loved this interview with Michelle. It was super hands-on and tactical on how you could get started and what is land flipping and how is that different than real estate. We go deep and it is super fun. I am so impressed with the business that this woman has built and the heart that she has to help other people create incredible wealth in their lives. So buckle up and get ready for a very inspired living interview with my friend, Michelle Bosch. Michelle Bosch, it is so wonderful to see you. It has been way too long, actually, I have to say.
It has been, for sure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Well, we hear about the American dream and people who come to America and end up with these multi-million-dollar businesses. And you just happen to be one of those stories. Give us a little of your backstory, because I love the front story. What you do right now with land investing and teaching people how to do it, and the real estate company that you've built is phenomenal. But before we go to the success, let's go back to where you started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I came here, Keri, back in 1995. I came here with 2 suitcases pretty much and a heart full of dreams.
From
And
where?
I came to Illinois, to a little town in the middle of nowhere of the cornfields, like about 3 hours southwest of Chicago. And I came originally from Honduras, Central America. I come there, I go about my business of getting my degree. I have a degree in finance. And in that last semester there, I meet another immigrant, which happens to be my husband. He's from Germany. And we meet, we fall in love, and we decide that we're not going to go back to our home countries, that in order to give this love relationship like a good solid, shot, that we're going to go and find jobs here, and that find companies that are willing to sponsor our green cards. And
that wasn't your intention initially. You were just going to come out and go to school and you weren't sure. Yeah.
And go back. Yeah, absolutely.
That love will do it to you.
That love. Yeah. I was like, okay, it's a degree in finance. I'll probably go back into banking, or I'll probably, if anything, eventually perhaps become a country manager for one of the big multinationals in my country, and so on and so forth. And yeah, Cupid hit, and you are or struck, and you're like, okay, there's a change of plans here. Let's give this a shot. We both found jobs with big Fortune 500 companies that were willing to sponsor our green cards. We were both 100% travel, Keri, and what that meant, we barely saw each other during the week. Our paychecks definitely did not match our time and effort. We were working 60, 80-hour weeks, in consulting. And just being on the road was an incredible grind. And we're
And
like,
I know that there are people that are listening that can absolutely relate to that. I mean, corporate, as great as it can be for certain things, it really is that, oh my gosh, I'm working so hard for the money that I'm earning.
Yeah. And you know what? It was good money. It just was, in our eyes, it was a way to make money that meant that only affects kind of like your income statement. And that's the finance in me is coming out. And it's like, you're only income statement wealthy because you have to put in these hours in order to get paid. And if you don't put in the hours, you don't get paid, you know?
Right.
And you know, I knew from my family back home, we had some commercial real estate, that it is possible to have wealth from a different perspective, and have actually what I call balance sheet wealth, where you have actually assets that produce income for you, and that you don't necessarily have to have this exchange of hours for dollars. So we knew from the get-go, when we were tired of, you know, of the daily grind and then the traveling, you know, 3 years into it, that we were going to do something in real estate. So we started thinking about flipping houses, because that's what everyone thinks about when they think about a home, you know, real estate
investing.
Yeah. Let me go and buy a home, rehab it, renovate it, you know, put a tenant on there, or do a quick wholesale to somebody else. And well, we found out that since we were both not from the US, we were way over our heads. We didn't know how to estimate repairs on roofs, foundations, how, you know, renovations on a kitchen. Like, does it cost $700, you know, to go ahead and get rid of a stucco wall, or is it $20,000? Because where I'm from, you have like cinder concrete blocks is what your walls are made of.
Right. You're like, is this estimate anywhere close to what it should be? Yeah,
exactly.
Contractors loved you, I'm sure.
I know. So we actually, our first junker, we couldn't sell it. We couldn't find someone, because we had over offered. We couldn't find someone that would take it off our hands. So we're like, okay, that's it. We're pulling the plug on this one, and we're going to go and start looking into other things in real estate. We came across something called tax liens, tax deeds, which is something that is really obscure. Basically, it's something where here in the US, if somebody doesn't pay their property taxes, you can lose your property eventually 5 years into it, depending on the state, to a tax lien foreclosure or a tax deed foreclosure. We're like, oh my God, can somebody actually lose their private person, you know, their real estate because of non-payment of taxes? I go to a tax auction, and what I noticed, Keri, is that a bunch of the properties that were coming up for auction were actually pieces of land. And I'm like, dang, these people have waited 5 years for their to lose their property. I'm sure they probably made up their mind way earlier. And why don't we send them a letter? Let's find a list of vacant landowners, and let's send them a letter and see if they're willing to, you know, to sell it to us, because I know that it's selling at the auction. You know, people are buying these properties. Yeah. And that's kind of how we started. I think it's kind of like this immigrant, I wouldn't say advantage, that you see opportunities perhaps that others don't see. And number two, you have zero fear of hard work, and we're already working hard for someone else. So let's do this, because I don't have to be on a specific place to go and inspect the kitchen and inspect the roof. Land is just dirt. There's nothing to inspect. This is something that we can do as a side hustle for sure.
That's just so amazing. And you're right. You know, I think based upon where we're raised and our religion and our school, like, we have these lenses on that, you know, we see things a very certain way based on our early childhood, you know, development. And for you guys to come and, like, your lenses are like wide open to all the possibilities, because you don't
everything is new.
Anything else. Yeah, that's really amazing. I think that's something that we all need to remember. You know, it's like, what fresh eyes can we put on something, or working with someone that sees things from such a different perspective. That's why coaches are so amazing, and mentors, because they can look at your business, look at your investments, right, with such a different perspective and different lens. So
and it's almost like being reborn again, you know, in that moment that somebody gives you the different perspective, it's like being reborn. And so for us, it was like, oh my gosh, this is you know, the times of being a corporate executive and going up the ladder and becoming part of middle management and then upper management, these days are gone. And I could see a new possibility, like a new frontier for us. And we put the pedal to the metal. That first year we did about 30 land deals, and the next year about 60, then 150. And then by that point, we no longer, we're expecting our green cards. We had our green cards because up until we had the green cards, we were kind of like, tied
You had to
to
have
those
that
jobs.
job. Yeah.
And the moment that green card came, it was like, okay, I have my plan B solidly in place. I can let go of this. And we went crazy, made a lot of mistakes, made a lot of money in the process. And, 18 or 19 years later, we've done over 4,000 flips. We've invested, into a single family portfolio in 3 markets. We do now multifamily, like large apartment buildings. We teach others, how to start with land flipping if that's what they need, or if they want to be part of our, multifamily syndications, they can be part of those as well. And it's been, I think as we have grown as people, like the sophistication of the asset classes that we have, started investing in has been a progression that has been closely related to our own personal development and journey, of course, as investors.
That's
people.
important. Yeah. Because, we often see maybe this great vision, or we want to be millionaires or whatever, but like you have to grow into the person, right, that can actually attract that caliber of clients or money or all of it. Because I know that we still have these conversations all the time about, I'm here, I want to get here. Like, what do I need to do? Who do I need to become? Like, what's happening next? And that really is I think the secret of really being a great entrepreneur, is that you realize you have to keep growing if you want your business to grow too.
Absolutely. And now, when we started, there was no one really doing this in the land space. So it was a lot of trial and error for 3 years. But now any new business that we want to start, or any new thing, every time we wanted, so we mastered land flipping. We put blinders on for like 6-7 years. We found a head to that horse. It was 2009. Everyone was losing their shirts. We're like, okay, it's time to go shopping for houses, because it makes sense here in the market where I'm at. I'm in Phoenix. And, buying $40,000, $50,000 houses that were worth $200,000. And that I could rent for $900, $1,100, put a tenant in. We went and bought like 50 of them. And
okay, you say that like I went and bought 40 and 50 homes. Now, I'm sorry. I know we're doing well, but back in the day, where do you get money like that to buy 40 or 50?
So the land flipping is our cash machine. That's kind of like our motor, our engine. That's kind of like our ATM. We can sell property now really, really easily, really, really well, because we have this level of mastery. And even back then, we had started this in 2001. By 2008, we had mastered that. And that basically, that land flipping business kept on, producing cash. And I was able to kind of like allocate the cash that I'm producing in land flipping and now put it into single family homes.
I mean, talk about perfect timing to really master that between 2001 and 2008, before the market completely crashed. And then you had the assets, right, to go and buy.
We had basically the cash flow and the cash profits from the land, because we actually sell our land using seller financing. Like somebody gives you like a $2,000 down payment, say on a $50,000 parcel of land, and that you may have only paid $1,500. So you have all your money in from your cost, because they give you a $2,000 down payment. And then for the next 10, 15 years, they make a $300 or $500 monthly payment, like mailbox money, every month coming in from land notes. So we had a good number of loans where we are now the bank back in 2008 of people making payments every month, $60,000, $70,000 of passive income coming from those land notes that we now could go and use to buy the real estate, to buy the houses that used to be $200K now for 30, 40, or 50K.
Yeah. I mean, that's the time to buy anything, right? When the market's down, but you have to have the assets to be able, the cash to buy that. Can we go back a little bit, Michelle? Because I think for those listening or watching, like, of course we hear of land flipping. We hear real estate is a really great place to invest and diversify. We know the stock market's there. And I tell you, Michael is always like, it kills me. I took it out too soon. It's in too soon. It's up, it's down. Like, it's maddening. Why land? And for someone who has never even thought about this before, I'm like, I really kind of want to simplify it, because before I met you, I would have never thought of buying land and flipping land. So can you just like really, I hate to even say the word dumb it down, but like bring it down to me. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
So basically we have developed a method where we are able to find vacant landowners that are willing to sell their land for anywhere between 10 and 40 cents on the dollar. And then we turn around and sell that land for anywhere between 60% of that market value. Say something that is worth 10,000, just to give you a simple example, that I am able to sell for 6,000. I am already telling people there's a $4,000 discount here that you're getting, and we're able to move that land relatively quickly. We focus only on 3 types of land, though. We do infill lots in the cities, path of growth, which is about 45 minutes out from a main, downtown area. And then recreational land, which is about 2 to 2.5, 3 hours maximum away from a major city, where my buyer is typically somebody that wants to go build a cabin, that wants to go ride ATVs, that wants to go hunting, enjoy the outdoors, camping. And path of growth and infill is more of like a builder type. That's kind of my exit, who my buyer is in that situation. And so you find people that are willing to give you those pieces of land, and for many reasons, like they decided.
I was just going to ask, why are they giving it to you for such a low price?
The typical example is somebody decides that they're going to buy. They live up north somewhere in Michigan or Illinois, where I originally came here in the U.S. And they're looking at retirement, and they bought a piece of land in Arizona, and they bought a piece of land in Florida. And they decided that they're going to retire here in Arizona, and now their piece of land in Florida, they have no use for it. They keep on paying for property taxes. Maybe their kids don't want to move there. Their kids are not interested in the piece of land either. And now they're stuck with it. They try putting it for sale with a realtor. A realtor has no idea how to sell a piece of land, because they're used to having a beautiful home that they can stage, where they can put beautiful lighting, and they failed at selling it with the realtor, and now they're stuck with that piece of land. That's one example. Another example, a divorce, or I am in dire need of cash for whatever emergency and reason, and I need to liquidate some of my assets. All kinds of reasons, and that's why people, will sell your land. So you put that property under contract, you market it. There's an art in marketing it as well, and a science, a little bit of both. You sell it, 30, 60, 90 days later, and ka-ching, ka-ching, you sell it for more, either for, if you bought something for 1,500, like I said, maybe you sell it for, depending on the market value, if the market value is 20, you maybe sell it for 15,000 and still leave 5,000 in it so that it's a quick sale. And now you've made, a 13,000 profit split relatively quickly, compared to
it really is something to think about, because so many of us are looking to diversify and look at how we can put our money into different places and make money in different places. When it comes to land, like right now the housing market is bananas, especially where I am here in Southern California.
The same here, and all across the US, Keri. This has been our best year for selling land.
Has it really? So why is that? Is it supply and demand? Everything goes down to supply and demand, but I would assume that when the housing market is high, then the land is too, because people want to build. Is that it? I'm trying the psychology behind it.
That is exactly correct. That is exactly correct.
Okay.
And in the cases where you're not in the infill or path of growth areas where people want to build and there's high demand, what you're going to find is that even in a contractionary environment of the economy, there's always going to be people that are wanting to have a cabin or a place to go, during the weekends. And that's where the recreational land is a little bit much more, I would say, recession proof and even pandemic proof, because that's exactly what happened right now. Everyone was in lockdown. Nobody was traveling and living La Vida Loca, going, to Europe or to the islands or to Tahiti or whatever.
Nowhere. We couldn't even go down the street, for God's sake.
Exactly. So everyone was looking for 2, 5, 10 acre parcels that they could go and camp and do stuff during the weekend, and take the kids on an RV and go out there and being in nature and explore, and no mask and so on and so forth. And then you also had the people now that were now virtually working from home, and they recognize that they don't need to be X amount of time from wherever their office is, because now this has become a new way of working. I don't think it's gonna ever entirely go away, Keri.
Yeah.
And now they know that, you know what? I don't have to live, 30 minutes from the office, because I have the option now to work virtually. And what if I instead work, go and look for something, a piece of land that is a little bit further away from the city, where I can have more time, where I can have the amenities of doing the mountain biking that I love, or of doing the hike, doing the outdoor stuff that I like. And I think that has all been like this perfect storm right now of different things that kind of like made it the perfect market to sell, where sometimes I ran out of inventory where I couldn't buy it fast enough to sell it.
Yeah, and that was part of my question too. I mean, you actually train people and teach people how to do this, right?
Yes,
you have the
absolutely.
land profit generator, and you teach people how to find the land. Mark, I know your program is amazing.
Thank you.
But I would still think that, like, how much land is out there? Like, is it just like homes though, where you're just like, there's nothing available on the market, and like supply and demand with that right now? Is there still a good marketplace for land?
Yeah, we've been doing it through pretty much any market cycle, or every market cycle now, because we've been doing this like almost 19 years.
Yeah.
And what will happen if there was a dip, because we have already experienced a dip in 2009 actually, is that people will perhaps be buying for a little bit less money, but I'm also able to buy them for less money, so my margins don't really suffer in those situations. So you have a situation where you have returns that are higher sometimes in terms of flips. If you are just doing wholesaling, returns that are higher than a house flipper, very little competition because nobody is doing it. Like if you we do a lot of direct mail, direct response. And in order to find the vacant landowners and have them call us and say, yeah, I'm interested in selling my land, and you can present them with an offer.
And Michelle, can you just buy a list for that? Like, how do you find those people? Yeah, and I'm sure this is all what you teach, right?
So there's 3 places to go get list of vacant landowners. You can go to big list data providers like DataTree or Agent Pro 24/7. In the real estate space, those 2 are really very well known. You can go directly to the counties. That's what we like to go to, directly to the counties, the freshest data of everyone. And
you have to buy the list, or
you buy the list. You buy the list. You can go and buy basically an entire assessor's roll in a particular county, and filter that, that roll, or, those records by everything that is land, exclude everything that has a house on it or that has some kind of improvements or structure on it, and focus on land of a certain value. Our sweet spot is land anywhere between $10,000 and $300,000 in value, and market value. And you send those people a letter, and our response rates are, for every 750 to 1,000 letters, I'm going to get anywhere between 15 and 20 phone calls of people, and I'm going to make offers, and probably I'm going to get 3 to 5 deals from those.
So
15.
Michelle, when you get this, you could tell I'm just so intrigued by all this.
Yes.
When you call that person, I mean, you haven't seen the land, right? So how do you know? And I hope this is helping someone else really understand what it is that she's talking about, because the girl's managing over $40 million in assets. So I think she knows what she's doing. Did I have that number right, Michelle?
Yes, that is. It's grown a little bit now. I've gone out there and made more messes and made more money in the process.
God bless you, sister. You got to make a mess sometimes to make the money out of it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But for someone who's really interested, and by the way, you can go work with Michelle. She has amazing free master classes and things that you can do to learn more, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But how do you assess the value? I mean, of course, there's things that you know just looking it up online. But if you haven't seen the land, is it just,
Yeah. So we pick areas. Number one, we pick areas that are not the hyper growth type of areas, and not the areas or counties, I should say, where there's nothing going on. So number one, it's like this.
You don't want to be too far out there.
Yeah, exactly. So you want like mid-tier markets, this mid-size size cities. And you want to go and pick counties in an area where if you were to go on Realtor, on Zillow, on Redfin, and go see if there's any land being sold, that you see that there's land available, that there's, supply, but that there's also demand, that there's land that has been sold. Yeah. And then you would get a list from that particular county. You would send your direct mail, and, and the list has been filtered based on the value that I mentioned earlier. And people are going to call you and say, yes, I'm interested. And only at that point will you then do deeper research on value to confirm and due diligence to present them with an offer. Yeah. Okay. Because if you have a list, say, of a county where you have, I don't know, 5,000 records, you're not going to go do research on 5,000. You're just going to do research on the people that raise their hand and say, yes, I'm interested in selling on those. It's almost like, we were talking earlier, because we're part of a mastermind together or lead generation and organic and paid. And it's like, it's bringing pretty much, a potential or a prospect of a property or a vacant owner, so that through that qualifying funnel. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, these people raised their hand. They said that they're interested in selling their land. Let me go and do a little bit further research, do some comparison analysis on properties.
Just like when you'd buy a home, right?
Just like when you buy a home, analysis. Absolutely. Yeah. And based on acreage, based on size, I go look at what other similar properties are there. If it's an infill lot, I back into the value of the land by seeing what are the typical homes that are being built, what is the price per square footage of a $1,500 home. Well, if this is what it's out there in the market, a builder would want to make X on the building of the house, so therefore he needs to buy the land for this. So the value
reverse engineer it, like we do in most of our businesses, right?
You back into the value of the land. Yeah. So you make an offer, that person either takes it or doesn't take it. If they take it, they're going to send you a signed contract. You're going to call them and say, hey, Mr. Seller, thank you so much. I'm super excited. We're going to turn this over to our title company. They're going to be taking care of, the closing process, doing title research, and you immediately go and start marketing the property. Yep. Find a buyer, bring the buyer to the closing table, and the buyer will actually bring the funds to pay the seller, and you will be paid the difference.
Oh, wow. So you never actually end up paying the landowner because you got someone to buy it in the middle of the transaction. Yeah. Isn't she smart? Smarty. All right. We're going to pivot here a little bit. My favorite word right now. Yeah. So land, something for us to really think about. And if for some people who like, oh my God, you must have to have millions of dollars to invest in land. What can someone start thinking about? Like, how much disposable income? I know you just said you don't have to have any because you find a buyer in the interim.
You need to have like maybe a couple $1,000s to go and start direct marketing, so that you can actually get leads and people that are willing to sell the property to you. Yeah. So for direct mail, I would say anyone can start with maybe $2,000-$3,000 to actually see, have a good response rate and have a few deals under contract. You're going to send your letters on Monday. 2 weeks from that Monday, you might already have deals under contract. Yeah. And, all right. It can go as quickly as that, but I want to say we believe in making a splash and a big one very quickly, so that very quickly you find out if that area that you're targeting is a good area or not. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm going to say there's going to people that are going to say, oh, just send 500 letters to a county. And I'm like, no, let's send 3,000 letters. Let's blanket this section of the county. Yeah. And let's find out very, very quickly if this works in this county or not. If I'm going to have, good response rates from the sellers, and if I'm going to have a healthy demand from buyers. And that's when you're going into new places. By now, Keri, I have certain areas and pockets in the country that we know really, really well, that we know we can sell really well. And, but for everyone that is starting, we basically teach them how to fish and how to find and identify these hot markets. Because you could be sending a lot of direct mail to the wrong areas and wasting a lot of marketing dollars and time, and then
going fishing in the wrong pond.
Exactly. Yeah. And then 3-4 weeks later, you're out $3,000 and no calls, and you're like, okay, this doesn't work. Let's scratch that and let's move on to the next shiny penny.
Right. Yeah. So I want to talk more about your multifamily homes and those sort of things. But if someone is interested, because I find this very interesting and very intriguing, and you don't have to have a ton of money in the bank to
Yeah.
start investing in land. And I think that's the great thing, because when it comes to buying homes,
Yeah.
I know people can say you can do it with no money
Yeah.
down, but it's
Yeah.
not as easy as it used to be. Let's face it.
And
So
you don't
this is
need to have
something
good or bad credit. I mean, Keri, when we started this, it's not that we had bad credit. We
you
just
didn't have
had no
any.
credit.
Yeah.
So it was high returns, no credit, no competition. The response rates were off the roof. The price ranges were not price ranges that intimidated me. I
Yep.
actually, now most of our flips are 30, 50, $100,000 flips. But when we started with, we bought a property for $400 in Northern Arizona next to the White Mountain Lake area. And we sold it to the neighbor for $4,000. We made $3,600. Yeah, we go there, and Jack, my husband, we're like staking a for sale by owner sign, because we thought that we had to go look at every piece of land that we owned back in the day.
Right.
Not anymore. Yes. Not with Google Earth and everything that we have available now.
It's really amazing.
But we're staking it, and I still remember the name of the gentleman, Mr. Corona, comes out and he's like, "Are you the new owners of this piece of land?" And we're like, "Yes. I've been trying to contact the owner. We've been trying to buy it. Would you be willing to buy it? Because I want to extend my lot, and I want it to encompass the adjacent lot. So I'd be willing to buy it from you." And because we had zero negotiation skills, he offered us $4,000, and we looked at each other and we're like, "You got it."
Sure.
And they invited us in for lunch in their outdoors kitchen. I still remember them. We had lunch with them, and we signed a contract, and I even drove there a second time, 3.5 hours to sign at the closing table, because I thought that I needed to be there in presence, in person to sign it off. And
all the things we can do digitally now. It really
Exactly.
is amazing. Think about this. Think about the business you've built now. I mean, in person, chopping down the steak on the sign. And now almost everything that we can do is online. It really is. It's amazing. And it's so inspiring. Thank you for that. I hope we're piquing, interest and curiosity, because I think it's really important, whether you're a business owner or not, that you really look at how to diversify. And I know that's what I'm thinking about, as we grow the company. I'm always thinking about, okay, how do we diversify our income? And I love that balance sheet versus income statement, right? And what does that look like? And how are you creating wealth?
And just flipping land for wholesaling means just that I've replaced one job with another job. But the moment that I start selling that land on monthly payments, now I have a note, I have an asset, a loan that I could even sell to somebody else if I needed urgently cash. But that if I don't need to sell it to somebody else, just like Wells Fargo sometimes sells your mortgage to another bank,
sure,
you could sell your land note to someone else too. But if you don't need to, you can continue collecting $500 a month every month for the next 10 years. And you only need, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 of those at $500 a month. And most people can replace the income from their jobs.
Yeah.
Because and the typical American really only needs about $6,000 to $7,000 every month, of monthly income coming in, which can be produced like this with land notes. And then you can continue flipping so that you can continue creating seed capital to go and eventually buy a $150,000, $200,000 home, that you rent if you want, or start investing in larger assets for sure.
Yeah. So good. So if someone wants to learn more about what it is that you teach and how they can learn more about this whole land flipping thing that you do, how do they do that?
They can go to landprofitgenerator.com. And that's our website. We also have, like you said, free masterclasses every 6 to 8 weeks.
They are so good.
We'll probably do that. And you can register. They're free at landprofitmaster.com. And it's basically Jack and I and our entire team really for 9 days showing everyone the ins and outs of, what we do, and giving you actionable content, things that you can do every day, so that by the end of those 9 days with us, you're probably on your way to sending out your first mailer out and start having phone calls, the phone actually ringing with sellers wanting to sell their property to you. And it's a lot of fun. I have to say that I will always do land and I will always do real estate, but nothing has brought me more joy and satisfaction and fulfillment, Keri, than seeing just like everyday people, just kind of like Jack and I were. Like we're at the end of the day, we continue to be two very simple people, just
Yeah.
everyday people doing amazing things that they never thought were possible, changing completely family trees,
That's
bringing
true.
moms
Yeah.
home, bringing dads home from jobs that they absolutely do not want to be in anymore. And it's not just corporate executives. This is doctors. Like we have dentists that are like, oh my God, being on the chair, looking into
Yeah.
people's mouths, that was killing me.
Yeah.
I have something now, a completely different opportunity now ahead, and it's incredibly fulfilling. So I think that we had to go through that to get to now a much more purpose driven kind of great work.
Yeah.
But I'm happy, and it's a continued journey also in the actual investing as well, the sophistication of the projects. Like I said, I'll always continue doing it, but this has given me incredible amounts of satisfaction and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And
it feels good, doesn't it? Like when you crack
yes,
the code on something and you're like, oh my gosh, I can help other people do it too.
yeah,
You
it
know,
feels
it's why
so
good.
aligned,
Yeah.
so aligned, absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially like I see now a lot of ladies doing incredibly well in our programs. And I think it's because, we don't have a lot of the negotiation skills that the guys necessarily have. And because we have very
We
little,
can have them. We're not
we can
taught
have them,
them,
but we're
right?
not,
Yes.
but that's not
We're not conditioned to be master
exactly.
negotiators like a man is.
And so what I find is that when you are doing houses and you have all of this incredibly competitive environment, you need to come to those asset classes with incredibly sharp skills. And if you don't have them yet, this is a way towards mastery, to start small, basically with land, and then build up to, having those timeless business skill sets that you can then turn on for whatever entrepreneurial journey you decide to turn on, pretty much, because if you can
you're really like sharpening your own blade, like starting here, right? So you can then go up the totem pole.
Because if you can be of service to a seller, if you can be of service to a buyer, and you will be able to be of service to anyone, no matter what it is that you're selling.
Yeah, so true. We were just talking about going up the totem pole with investments, and you say that investing in apartment complexes is a better thing than investing in the stock market.
Yes.
Why is that? Let's talk a little bit about multifamily homes.
Okay, yeah. So when I say that, what I mean by that is I don't have to be because if you're a day trader, you're looking at 3 screens every day, all day. Yeah.
Can't do it.
And so number one, there's that. The returns that I'm able to get basically in real estate, I'm not able to get in the stock market. So number one, I don't have the volatility. I have the equal, if not better returns. And number three, I have control on those returns, because I can, based on how I'm operating and how I'm able to increase the net operating income of a property, I have actually increased the value of that property. So I'm able to say, come into a project of 147 units, like we won that we just purchased in December, and say, okay, there's some deferred maintenance here that needs to be taken care of. There is a little bit of better marketing that needs to be done. There is a few, things that we need to do in terms of renovations, to kitchens, to bathrooms. And if I am able to, do that over the period of the next 6 to 12 months and bring rental rates from $600 to $750, across 147 units, all of a sudden I have increased the value of the property. And if I wanted to flip it now, I could go flip it, just like we flip, land and houses. I could go wholesale it for much more money, or I can enjoy the fruits of those higher rents now, and go and collect monthly payments, get, rents due every first of the month.
Yeah, but that seems like that could be a lot to manage, but I assume you have property management companies.
We do.
And do you go in with a group of people when you're buying a multifamily unit, or is it something that you and Jack just do on your own?
Yes, when we started, we actually partnered up with another investor, because now every single time we start something new, whether it be in real estate or any other entrepreneurial journey, who's the best at what they do? And let me go and model them. Let me go and get mentored and coached by them, because we don't want to spend 3 years like we did in land flipping trying to learn it and master it.
I just have to go back to that for a minute, because I really think that is the key to success, is finding people that are already doing what it is that you're doing, or that you aspire to do. Like, go find the masters. If you want to get into land investing and land flipping, and you don't want to deal with real estate and homes and renovations, like Michelle and Jack Bosch are your people. Like, there's no one else to go to. Like, just go to them and figure it out. Like, why would you try to figure it out on your own? Like, go find the people.
Yeah. So whether it be land or whatever it is that you want to do, go find the best in their space. And be willing to bank on yourself, to be accountable for the results that you want to see, and go all freaking in on, go all animal on that, focus on it, master it. And then, once you're reaping the results of that, then you can move on to something else.
Yeah, that's so great.
But yeah, that for sure. What was the question again prior?
About if you go in with a partner.
Oh, yeah. So we went in with this, with a partner, a mentor. And then the next project, we went ahead and we did it on our own. And we actually brought actual outside investors to come in, come with us and become pretty much joint owners in the asset. And we would, of course, operate the asset in every single property that we invest in. We like putting in our own money, and now you operate that asset. Everyone gets returns on that, on their money, on their investment every quarter. And when we turn around and sell that, because we've now improved the value of the property, we sell that, we share usually with our investors, the profits of that sale. We have now, to a point, we've been doing now this since 2016. So we have a combination of, there's certain assets now that we're like, okay, we can afford now to pretty much maybe have one or two big partners come into a deal with us. Or if it's not, depending on the size and the purchase price of the property, we specialize anywhere in between $6 and $15 million in acquisition prices. And if we're on the lower end of that scale, we're like, okay, this is perhaps something that we can take on our own without outside investors. But if it's something bigger, we may need a few outside investors to come in, basically put in what we call the down payment, the 20% or 25%. And then the remaining 75%, we do traditional financing through Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and so on and so forth. And, and we know the types of properties that we need to go after in order to be able to produce the returns that we want to produce for our investors. And also that we know are going to be easy opportunities for us to, to get loans for. Like there's certain projects that if the property is like 60% vacant, there's no way in heck that you're going to get, get a traditional financing. You're probably going to have to go through bridge loans and so on, improve the vacancy of the property, and then move into a more long-term Freddie or Fannie Mae type of loan. And so
I get it. So Michelle, I think people's eyes are starting to roll back. They're like,
oh my gosh.
You can tell she knows what she's doing, and they're like, I just need to make money. Like, just help me make more money.
So we have friends that invest with us, basically, or people that invest with us, even our own coaching students that we're teaching them how to create, their little cash machines with land, invest with us, and then, X amount, and then they get quarterly returns on their investment every quarter. And they know that it's being operated and it's being optimized. And we're, first of all, again, creating a first-class community. And wherever it is that we're going, the very first thing I like to do is like improve the lighting. I want, if my tenant is a lady and it's a single mom, I want her to feel safe, comfortable. You know what I mean? There's certain things that we do, to make sure that it feels like a community that commands the higher rental rates that we're going to command eventually as we turn the property around from a prior management to, to us.
Yeah. And it's those things, it's being mindful of
Yeah.
that person. And I think that, yes, we're talking about real estate, but this can be in any business, that
Yeah.
client journey, that client experience, going
Yeah.
back to how you want people to feel.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Michelle, so much great info. Think about this for a minute.
Okay.
Two suitcases
Uh-huh.
from Honduras. No idea how that was going to shake out, to owning the companies that you do, managing over $40 million in assets, really transforming thousands of lives each and every year. I mean, that's got to feel good.
It does. It does. It's been a lot of hard work, but
And you have children.
yes,
Let's just put that
I
on there
have a
too.
little girl. She's 13 now. She's not so little anymore.
Yeah, it goes by
And
so
you know
fast.
what? That's for the last 13 years, she's my fuel. She's the reason
Yeah.
why I want her to not have to start where I started, which was at ground zero. I want her to be able to now stand on my shoulders and not be intimidated by, a $20,000 type of investment, but now look at, at some point, come out of college and help me underwrite a new apartment and look at a $10 million acquisition price.
Yeah.
And not have sticker shock over, it's just the confidence.
Yeah,
that
it's
comes
changing
with,
the lenses.
it's
Yeah.
changing the lenses for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's one of the reasons why I do it. And another is, I think I'm a student of life. I love learning. I love growing. And I always want to, like, every morning that I wake up, and if I don't wake up with this feeling, I go and make sure that I go figure out what I need to do to wake up with this feeling of that magic today is possible. That, that there is, that I feel like deeply connected to this feeling that anything is possible at any moment. If I'm willing to put in the work, the intention, that even though it might seem impossible, that in my mind, it's possible, that I can see it.
Yeah.
And yeah, waking up with that feeling it. Sometimes I have to say the entrepreneurial journey will kick your butt and you will not feel that way. And what I do is like, okay, I need to take half a day right now, or 2 hours, or whatever it is, to go find this feeling so that I can find joy, because otherwise the grind might just completely
it feels like you're going back to corporate, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to do that.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So that brings me to my final question. And that is, and I think you just answered it, but I need to ask anyway, what does inspired living mean to you?
Oh my God. Yeah, I think that's probably it.
Yeah.
That's definitely it. Is basically knowing that anything is possible at any moment in my parenting, in my relationship with my daughter, that anything is possible in my career, in my finances, in my love relationship with Jack, that the best is yet to come, and when I don't wake up like that, or I have moments where I don't have that feeling, I'm like, okay, I need to go and either, put on some great music, put on, do a little bit of dancing, the Latina in me. Go and, maybe take a minute walk up the mountains, because I'm right here in Paradise Valley here in Arizona, and I'm right across from a hiking trail. So I'm like, let me go out.
For me, I need to get out. I'm like, I need to go for a walk. I need to go clear my brain.
For you, it's probably the ocean. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They're close by. And let me get into that feeling again, so that I can be doing things with delight. And when I'm doing things with delight, even we become better leaders and better, I think, providers of whatever service you're doing, because people can feel you feeling delight in what you're doing,
So true.
Delight people. And there's so much negativity out there, and so much fatalism, and so much, darkness. And I'm like, I want you in some way, shape, or form, that if you are in touch with me, that you feel a little bit lighter, that you feel a bit more inspired, perhaps even more brave, because you see me being brave and getting my knees scraped and getting up anyway, and going doing big things. And maybe that lives a little imprint, that little bit of courage and bravery left a little bit of imprint in the universe. And it's sprinkles on you,
Yeah.
you know? So I think that's what it would be for me, for
Yeah.
sure.
You know, I often say when you're inspired, you inspire others. And that's exactly what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Like when
Yeah.
you share light, when you feel lit up, you help other people. And I want to get you back on the show because I want to talk about how you've managed to grow this business with your partner, with your husband. I want to talk about some of the decisions you've made, you know,
Yeah.
how you've built this into, you know, the huge multi-million-dollar business that it is. That's coming up. But the reason why I want to talk specifically about the land today is because I think it's really important, especially as women,
Yeah.
that we start becoming better stewards of our money and that
Oh,
we
yeah.
look at how we diversify, we look at how we invest. And Michelle, the fact that you are in a space that feels like, and this is again just my projection and my lenses, super masculine,
It
super
is.
like, how do I even get in there? What would I do? And to have a woman at the top of that industry, and I know you're with Jack, but like you kind of got in there, and I know that still to this day, you're the one who's making a lot of decisions within your company that allow it to keep growing. It
Yeah.
is inspiring. And I really wanted a woman to hear this. Not that I don't want my men to hear this
Yeah.
too, but I want you to understand that wealth is not outside of you. Like
Yeah.
you can
Absolutely.
create it. You just need to be creative. You need to know your options.
Yeah.
And then I love that Michelle said you don't have to start with a ton of money. You can start with
Yeah.
a little bit. So again, if you want to learn more, go to Land Profit Master. Is that right?
Yeah. Landprofitmaster.com.
All right.
And
And go sign up for her masterclass and
yeah,
start
absolutely.
learning, ladies.
Yeah.
We got to start learning. I'm just so passionate about
Yeah.
helping other women create wealth, generational wealth, not just bank account wealth, because like we need more women at the table. We need more women
Absolutely.
investing. We need
Yeah.
more women leaders and more women
Especially
out there.
in those higher levels of
Yeah.
asset classes.
It's
Let
all
me tell
men.
you, it's all men. And
Yeah.
it's amazing to see now women, you know, slowly getting up there. And you know, Jack, and we don't say it, but you know, I actually retired him from his job. And we don't say it out there publicly because
We're not
or
mentioning that anywhere.
but yeah, and there's so many women out there that would probably also want their husbands to be at home or working in some other kind of family-based entrepreneurial business that is really working towards your end goals, not means. You know,
Right.
there's these goals that are kind of like a means to an end, a job which is a means to an end, really, which is wealth. You know, sometimes it could be, you know, from a perspective of finances,
Yeah.
building wealth. And why not being together working on that end goal to begin with, you know?
Yeah. It's a lot more fun when you have someone
Yeah.
by your side doing
Absolutely.
it with you, picking you up when you get the
Oh yeah,
bruised
picking each
knees,
other up.
right? Yeah.
Because maybe
Yeah.
one day, you know, he wakes up completely uninspired and it's my
Yeah.
turn to kind of like breathe
Yeah.
that into him.
Fairy dust.
Yes. And sometimes it's I, the one that doesn't wake up. And then he's like, oh, no. But look at how far we've gone. We've come.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you know, you get out of the gap of like looking at the perspective that you're never reaching your goal. And you're always looking at, you know, where you're deficient versus of how far you've come. He gives me a lot of perspective in that regards, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's great
So
having
good.
someone or a
So
coach.
good.
If you don't have your
Yeah.
husband doing it, it's got to be a coach.
Agreed.
Yeah.
1,000%. You need someone championing you and helping
Yeah.
you get up on those days where the fairy dust seems a little too far away. All right, Michelle Bosch, I adore you. Thank you so much for your time. I'm telling
Thank
you,
you
like
so much.
I need to be working with you. So I'm coming back. I'm glad I have good friends. I tell you what. I'll tell
I
you that.
know.
All right.
The
Thank
same
you,
here.
beautiful.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
You've just heard another uplifting episode of Inspired Living with Keri Murphy, the podcast. I hope you loved it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And if you'd like to know more about Inspired Living or to get your hands on many of our awesome free resources, such as the Be Studio Ready Guide, simply visit us at inspiredliving.tv/podcast. Remember, your vision is your destiny, and we're here to help you bring it to life. Join me again next week for another extraordinary episode.